Hello everyone, this is tutorial 6, Surface Design and Manipulation. This tutorial has two parts, where we will be learning how to manipulate surfaces and create geometrical elements from them. First of all, let's go ahead and take a look at the workbench that we're going to be working with today. So you see that we've been doing part design, sketcher, soon we're going to start doing assembly design. And now, of course, we have also done the drafting. Now we're going to start exploring a little bit the powerful capabilities to create shapes with the shape workbench. We're going to start with the generative shape design. Let's go ahead and click on that and name our part. Of course, you always want to have the naming convention. So I'm going to go ahead and put PRT for part. RH for my initials, you replace RH with your initials, and then this is tutorial 6, the first version. Let's go ahead and get started. At first, we're going to have to create a sketch within the YZ plane. So we click on the YZ plane. Of course, there's always different ways. You can click on the YZ plane in the design tree, or you can click on the YZ plane on the actual references. After you do that, we click on Sketch and we start creating our profile. Keep in mind something that is very, very important, which is you always want your sketches to be ISO constrained. Of course, this is something that as you're progressing, you learn how not to need to have them fully ISO constrained, especially as you're using different features such as mirror, such as flip, and so on. First of all, let's go ahead and create a straight line and then a tangent circle all the way till this point. And we can click escape, or if we knew that we're going to end in here, we can double click. I'm going to double click on the constraints so that I create the two dimensions. And now you can see that this is, despite the fact that we have constrained everything, it is still white. It is not ISO constrained. The reason for that is, and you can always explore it by pressing on something and trying to move it around. So everything we've set is still respected. This point remains in here. This, like, I can go ahead and put the right dimensions, 18.5, and in here it's going to be 34 millimeters. And these won't change because you've constrained them. However, look at what's going on with the part itself. And you can move this point as well and so on. Now what is missing is the dimension between this line and this line to constrain all of it. So we're going to go ahead and add it by clicking the vertical and this element. And now we have an ISO constraint sketch. By putting the dimension at 15, we have the profile that we want. We're going to exit this sketch and we're going to use, this is the toolbars that we're going to use. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate where you access it from. Let's say you do as I do all the time, which is you change your CATIA and you mess up where everything is, and you put something in here, you put something, I don't know if you knew it, but you can also put on the left, on the right. It doesn't want to take it. Okay, it took it. So let's say you messed up your CATIA like this. You can always right click, click on customize, and you be patient a couple of seconds. You click on toolbars, restore all contents, and restore position. And this will reset CATIA. So the toolbar that we're looking for is this toolbar, which is relevant to the creation techniques. And so you have surfaces. For example, this is an extrusion. This is an offset. These are so powerful, and you're going to be enjoying this tutorial using them. So let me demonstrate this one, although this is not the one that we want, which is the extrude. Basically, you just created an extrusion of your profile along a plane. So along the line. So, and you can actually mirror it, you can change dimensions, you can change direction, and so on. Now what we wanted is a revolve. So you're going to click on the little black icon and click on revolve. This revolve, you select the axis, and then you say you're going to do it with respect to the vertical, and you create your revolution parts. So let's go ahead and make sure that we're making it a full revolve, 360, and we click OK. Now we have our revolve. So we have our part, we have our revolve feature, and so on. Let's go ahead and move on and start creating a little a little helix so that we can start creating our fan. So we're trying to create a little propeller and with 3 fans, and we're going to demonstrate several features. First of all, let's put this reference point that we need. So I'm going to go ahead and, because we want to do things the right way, I'm going to create a new geometrical set. I'm going to call this reference elements or references or reference geometry, whatever it is that you need. And we are going to, this is the toolbar for reference elements. So what I'm doing is I'm pressing shift and I'm moving the mouse so that you can see that this is called wireframe. So I'm going to select the point, and based on what we have in front of us, the dimension of the point are, it looks like it is 4 along Z and 15, and it is on the surface. So let's go ahead and test a 15 for Y and a 4 along Z, and we click preview. Okay, and we do have the point at the right place. I'm gonna go ahead and hide my previous sketch, and actually I'm going to hide the planes just so that we can see this in a better format. So this is my part so far. If you want your revolve feature to go around the part, you can right click and put reframe on. This will help you like this. When you're moving the mouse, it's moving with respect to this point. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna go ahead and zoom back a little bit more. Let's go ahead and now start creating this helix. First of all, what we need to do is we need to find where this helix icon. So a lot of time when it comes to CATIA and the usage in CATIA, a lot of the icons are not directly present in front of you. A lot of the icons, you can find them by clicking on the little black triangles in here. So let's say you wanted this helix icon, you can go under the spline and you can see the helix. Of course, this is in this workbench, and in other workbenches you have other options. So you can see the different features, and this is something with experience you will start acquiring it more. So we're going to go ahead and click on helix. It gives us the different options that we have. First of all, you need to click the starting point. So this is the point that we created. Now, there is a little problem in what I've done, and before I move along more, I'm going to fix it, which is I would have preferred the helix to be under the part body, but you know what? Let's just keep it for now. This is a feature element. We can use it as reference. So I can live with the fact that this is distant from the part body. So we click on this point, the axis that we want. So we're going to select the axis. So you can right click in here and select which axis you want. So let's say you wanted the helix around the x-axis, you can select x or so on. We're going to go ahead and select the y-axis. And the last thing that you want to select is, so actually I did select the z-axis. So I did, like I said y, but I clicked z, which is my intention. And this is now the next thing. What we want is we want to make sure that we decide what we want in here. So for this one, we're going to do a pitch of 95 millimeters. And so that's very important. You can pick how many revolution you want. So let's say, look at this. So you wanted 1 revolution. If we wanted 2 revolutions, you can see this is 2 revolutions. Now, the helix type that we are going to pick ourselves is not based on the pitch and revolutions, but it's rather based on the height and pitch. So we're going to select height and pitch. So we have the pitch of 95 millimeters, and then we are going to say, hey, the height is of 30 millimeters. We click a preview and we get the helix that we want. And this is the helix that we are trying to create. So this is a feature, and this helix enables us to create that portion on the surface, and we are going to use that to create from it the geometrical element. So next thing that we want is we are going to click OK on this. So this is basically, let's make sure that we verified everything right, and at the same time explore different options. So this is counterclockwise. You could have selected clockwise. So that's, of course, what we have is counterclockwise, but that's an option. You can change the starting angle. You can actually have a taper angle, and you can make it inward or outward. So these are different elements, and reverse direction, well, basically it just goes down. So let's go ahead and click OK. This is the helix that we have. It's a bad convention to leave things as point 1, helix 1, and so on. So let's go ahead and rename this helix starting point. This would be good, especially when you end up having like a lot of different elements in here. So the naming and naming conventions, they are very, very important. At this stage, what we want to do is we want to create the sweep of the profile that we have. So let's go ahead and click on the sweep icon. So there are different elements that you can see, and this is under the, what is it that we're trying to create is a surface. So you see that under the surface toolbar. And under the surface, what we're going to do is to sweep the part that we created. So let's click on sweep. It opens for us the menu. There are different elements. You can click on a profile type. You can click on a line, on a circle, and so on. What we want is to sweep a line. And we want to do it with respect to a reference surface. So let's make sure that these are selected. First of all, let's select the guiding curve. And this is our helix. And then the reference surface. The reference surface is the revolution that we just created. And start filling the different information that we have. This is 90 degrees. The angular sector is going to be 1/4. And we're going to have a first length of 85 and a second length of 5 millimeters. We're going to see what are these options and what they do for us. So let's click on preview. This actually creates for us what we just defined. Look at this. This is a sweep. This sweep is linear. So you can see this line. It's done at an angle of 90. So let's, just to demonstrate the difference, let's go ahead and put in here 45 degrees. And I'm going to click on preview. So you see how the sweep now is at a 45 degree. Let's go ahead and put it back at 90 so that this is what we want to create. Now let's go ahead and demonstrate this 85 and change that to 20. You're going to see how this is all going to be reduced. Preview. So now we have a 20. Let's replace that and put that back at 85. This is the option that we have at hand. And finally, this length of 5, let's go ahead and put that equal to 30 and see how it creates. So basically, you can see it from the inside. It is as if you're doing it to the other side. So to demonstrate it back, I'm going to click on 5, preview, and you see how it entered from here. So these are the different options that we've created in order to create our swept surface. And this swept surface, we can now go ahead and click OK. And we have this swept surface that creates for us the profile type that we want to have. Now, this is something that, so let's go ahead and click on the XY plane and look at that from the top. This is something that, it creates for us what we want. It demonstrates what we were hoping to achieve. But just to demonstrate some of the elements that you can manipulate with them. So basically, we are doing surface manipulation. Just to demonstrate these different manipulation elements, let's see a little bit what are the different options that we can do on our swept surface. All right, so one of these manipulations that we can have is projecting into a profile and trying to create some intersections. Let's go ahead and click on the XY plane and create a sketch. And then let's go ahead and select the profile of the propeller and bring it down to us. Now, in order to make sure that like I'm gonna go ahead and move this design tree a little bit here. And I'm gonna reactivate it. In order to make sure that the sketch the projections can be used as is, we are going to select them one by one. So you can see in here what's happening. So you can see in here that if I go ahead and select this one and I project it, So this is the project 3D elements. So if I bring it here, it's going to be longer than this curve. And that's okay. This is fine. We're going to project them. So we can select them and like press Control and select all of them at the same time and project them. And like this, we would have them as separate element. If you remember, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, and I am going to go ahead and hide the sweep. So we are working in the reference elements. Let's go ahead and fix that. I'm going to close this. I'm going to make sure to move the sweep to the part body, move the sketch to the part body. And if it doesn't want to go, we can force it by cutting it and pasting it here, clicking close. So we might have messed up something and that it didn't like. We can recreate it, and that's fine. Ooh. All right, let's see what happened in here. So sketch 3, sketch 3 is a projection from from the sweep, and they cannot be after each other. So let's go ahead and try to reorder the different element. Let's go ahead and take the sweep and put the sweep after the revolute. All right, no problem. Now the sweep has been resolved. We can go ahead and double click on the sketch. There should not be an issue anymore. I don't know what's the issue. It's saying you need to edit the sketch to solve this problem. Projection. Yeah. Let's go inside. So what happened is when I was taking them, I actually moved them along not the right line, and this is what's the problem that happened. It's okay. At least we discovered it. So not to fall into this mistake again, I'm gonna right click here and define working object. Click on this one, click XY plane, select my plane. So if I go ahead and project it, it's gonna come down as one unique element. So I better click Control and select them edge by edge and project all of them to the sketch that I have. Next thing is I'm gonna use, so there's so many things you can do to remove this excess from here. You can use this quick trim, you can use the break, the trim, wherever you think makes sense to you. So I'm gonna use quick trim here, and I'm gonna use quick, oh, I did not click again. So I'm gonna use quick trim here again. So to verify before I move forward, before I create in here, it would be good to exit the sketch and try to extrude the sketch just to see if that works, like if it's not closed. Well, it does work, so I am capable of doing it. So I'm going to click cancel, then I'm going to go back to my sketch and continue my operations. Let's see. They're asking us to fill it, so we're going to create a corner between this sketch and this sketch, and the corner is of 18.5, and then we're going to do the same from the other side, and this one is 20. All right, so this gives us our sketch. So let's go ahead and see what's next. Now the next is to extrude the command, and we're going to fill it with a dimension of 40. So this is where it is here. So this is extrude. We're going to select this one, and we're going to do a 40. So this is how it's supposed to look like. From one side you have it, so if I want to take the same view as in the tutorial, this is how it is supposed to look like. Alright, I'm going to click OK. Now we're going to use the split command to split the outside portion of our fan. So we're going to, so there are some operations in here. These are the operations. This is the split command, so you can split something up. Now the first question is, what is it that you want to cut? We want to cut, so let's see. What is it that we want to cut? Yes, we want to cut the sweep. So this is the sweep. So if you're reading the tutorial and you see I have sweep 2 and in the tutorial there is sweep 1, that's not a problem. It's because I tried to show you several things, so I created more than one sweep. The cutting element is the extrude that we've had, and now you have to select which element that you want. If you want the other side, or keep both sides, or to do the intersection of the computation. So what we really want is one of these sides, and I don't know which one it is. So I'm gonna click preview to see which one we are left with. And it looks like we are left with the right one, and these one are removed, and I'm gonna click OK on this. So just to demonstrate what's the other option, if you have clicked the other side, look at it's removing what's inside and it's leaving the external portions. So preview, click, and you could have left, we could have left both sides, by the way. So we could have decided, hey, we want both of them, but we want them into separate splits. So I'm gonna click OK. Now that we have this, we're going to go ahead and hide the extrude that we have. We're going to hide the sketch that we have, and this is the fan. Now we're going to create a we're going to try to use patterns. So patterns, you see this is a rectangular pattern, and if you click on it you can see a circular pattern. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a circular pattern. We're going to create this feature, and we're going to repeat it 3 times in an actual element. So we're going to click it and 3 times. So what we can do is, instead of, okay, let's demonstrate the different ones. First of all, let's go ahead and select the pattern, the element to pattern. It's this one. Let's go ahead and select the reference element that we're going to use, and the reference element is this one, and let's click preview. All right, so what did we miss in here from the parameters? So the reference element, let's see if I can select as simple as the z-axis instead of like just worrying about this. All right, so technically I should have 2 instances. I don't see the second instance, even if I click preview. Let's do 3 instances. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, I see what's the issue. Look at the issue. The object to pattern is revolute itself. So it is recreating this element. So you can see in here the 3 patterns. So this one in here, we can click in here to select a different body, remove this one, and select this element, which is the split, and close. So if I click preview, you see what happened now. We have a beautiful pattern, a circular pattern. It is taking the right axis, and we have it from all the different sides. So you can click as much as you want, you can calculate, you can see the instances as I'm creating them. Or an easier way is to do what we call a complete crown, which means full 360. And it's based on the instances. So if you put 5 instances, it's going to be 360 divided by 5, that's a 72. If you put 4, if you put 3, it's going to automatically compute what we have. And this would create the beautiful pattern that we have. So this is an excellent demonstration so far of how you can manipulate and create different elements with surfaces design. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and proceed and create thickness for all this part. But before we do that, let's go ahead and join these different elements. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, this original element, this revolute, and this one, all of them, they're going to constitute a single component. All right, so none connects. Okay, so let's go ahead and change the connexity. Let's go ahead and not check the manifold at this point, and click preview, and that should be fine. All right, good. So at this stage, we said, all right, if there is issues, there is no connectivity, no problem. I know how I'm going to be fixing it. And this is, I'm going to be adding a thickness to my part. So the way to add the thickness to the part is we need the thickness icon, and we can apply this one. So let's see where it is. Hiding the thickness icon, I cannot see it anywhere in here. So let's see if it's somewhere hidden there. So far, so this is a great set of icons that we use to create. So there is another way to create to thickness of a surface, to create a volume. We can use this icon. That's gonna do the same thing. And let's see. So it looks like it's not in here. I do recall that this icon, in like, we can use this one. This is a thick surface icon. This will do the same thing. Basically, you would select your element, and you would do the thickness that you want, and it would create the volume, as you can see in here. And the icon that you have the colors for, if my memory is, it should be in freestyle. But then again, it's not the end of the world. You can use it from where we have just tested it. So let's see. It's not anywhere in here, and I don't see it anywhere on this operations. Wireframe, nope, wireframe is for wireframe. So a lot of time I leave those questions that I ask myself and these different elements that I try to do like live like this. So I'm looking into digitized. I do remember it's in a different module. I just don't remember in which one is it because I'm used to using the one from the volumetric. So this one is actually how to create volumes. This is one of my favorites when I'm playing with surfaces, and this is like you can extrude a volume, create multi-section, and you can do this thick surface to increase thickness. Let's see if it's hiding somewhere here. No, it's not. You know what? Let's just go ahead and use this one since it anyways does the same effect. We're gonna do 2 millimeters. We're gonna do it on this joint, preview, and click OK. Then I can hide this element and I have my volume. All right, so this wraps up a little bit this first portion to create this part. I'm going to stop this and move to the second part of the same tutorial where we are going to manipulate a little bit and play around a little bit with surfaces and control points and what does control points mean. All right, so stopping for this one and moving on to part 2. All right, we are going to go ahead and start with part 2, working more on generative part shape design. So clicking on this one, I'm going to call it control points because this tutorial illustrates, this part of the tutorial illustrates control points. Control points are a very important method that we can use to actually create several elements to actually have better control mathematically of what you want to manufacture. Let's go ahead and reset CATIA so that it's not everything is back into its position so that you can follow along with me. So restore position. So now that we have all the icons, what are the different icons that we have? We have the geometrical reference. This is in here where we create point, where we create lines. These are curves by operation, so you can project a 3D curve on a surface, you can intersect two surfaces, and so on. This is for a parallel curve on a surface. In here we can create different types of connections between curves, and so on. So this is for like helix, or if we want it like a general spline with a 3D point, and so on. In here we can create surface operation, and then we can cut them. This is what we have just done in the first part of this tutorial. So let's go ahead and start by creating the points for the contouring polygon. So we're going to create a geometrical set. Let's call it control points, control elements. And I'm going to double click on the point, which means every point I'm creating, like I'm gonna press enter, it's gonna ask me for another point. Like this, I don't have to repeat this several times. So -1, 0, 0, -3, 6, 4. So we're creating 8 points, and now we are at point number 5, point number 6, point number 7, and the final point. Alright, so now we can click X on this one. We have all of our 8 points. Let's go ahead and zoom in so that we can fit all the points in. So we can see we have 4 points in here and we have 4 points in here. So at first we have created those 8 points, and the second portion, what we're going to do is we are going to hide those reference planes that we have in here so that we don't disturb the view that we have of the different part. And we are going to link those points. Now there is something in the tutorial mentioned along U and V. This is if we were going in details about surfaces and parametric surfaces, we would define a surface that is defined by these control points as SUV. And UV are the parameter, just like XYZ. Instead of having like the surface function of XYZ, we have a function of SU and V. So what we're going to do next is we are trying to create what we call the different lines that would create the contouring polygon. So I'm going to double click on line, and we're going to do it point point, and I'm going to create a first line in here, and okay, a second line between these points. I'm going to click OK, a third line. This is just to illustrate you don't really need the lines to create the contouring polygons, but this is just to illustrate the contouring polygons and the concept. And we have this point from here, this element from here, and this point. So now I have my first contouring polygon and my second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create my lines along the V parameter. So this is my second one. This tutorial is really excellent in the sense that it demonstrates to you how to create complex surfaces. And we are going to see that in brief seconds. So we have created the different contouring lines and the contouring parallels. Let's go ahead and color all of our U parameter, and you're going to see what I mean in green and the V1 in red. So I'm going to select my U. So this is if you want like one orientation, just like along this orientation, this is my U orientation. And we're going to graphics, line, let's pick the green color, give it some thickness, and here we are. And then the second one, so this is aesthetics more than actual needed for the creation of the surface, but this is just to show you how we can actually see those different elements. All right, so these are now we're going to create the freestyle surface. So first of all, I am going to define the part body. This is where I want to create my stuff, and I'm going to click on style, freestyle. So sorry, I did it so fast. So start, shape, freestyle. So I moved into this workbench where I have access to these different elements to create the patch and to create the different points. What we're going to start with is we're going to create a plane that connects these 4 points before we move the plane to follow the other controlling elements. So let's go ahead and click on this one to create the patch, and I'm going to select on this point and this point, and we click OK. So this creates the patch, this creates the surface that I have for this point. Now what we're going to do is we're going to click on control points, and then we're going to select the nerve surface that we have. So what we have is, and this is important to know, what we have is a contouring polygon that has from one side V is equal to 2, and from the other side U is equal to 4. So this is what it means. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're controlling along 4 lines. But in here it's only linear. So you cannot have NV is equal to 4. So we're going to right click on this one and select 2, which means now we are controlling it with respect to only these 2 points. And this is very, very important. Now, the next thing that we want you to do is go ahead and, so we have 6 points that are already where they're supposed to be. So 1, 2, 3, 4, they are where they're supposed to be. 5, 6. The only remaining point that we need to locate them are these 2 points. So this tutorial is, I mean, this is not the right way to do the surface. If we were doing it, this is more of the right way to explore how to create the surface. So we're going to manually manipulate this control point that we have in here, and we're going to move it up, as you can see. So this is moving it up, and then we're gonna move it to this other side. Now this time we are going to move this one along this line. So you see what we've done, and actually, so I don't know why this moved it along this other line. So perhaps I had some of the features. Let's see. Perhaps I had some of the feature that was not selected. Well, I see which one it is. It is this one. So I'm going to go click and cancel so that it returns back to the original surface. I'm going to click on control points, and I'm going to repeat this. This can be useful. I'm going to repeat this to this point. And this, so these functions are very, very important. How you want to actually harmonize the motion that you have and how you want to create the diffusion. So I'm going to make sure that we select this element, and then I am going to move along the normal that we have. So this one will only move it now normal, even this one. So this shows to you a little bit how we moved it to this line. But this point needs to come here, and this point needs to come to the other side. So the final thing that we will have to do in order to switch the points is to go ahead and click on the other elements that helps us move the point. So we can move along. So look, I'm gonna go ahead and press them. You see what highlights. So if I press on this one, it shows you like how you can move it. Like I can elongate it along this. If I press on this one, it shows you how you can move it. Now these are the ones that, like the local tangents that we want. So this is, look at this one here, and I'm gonna move it to this line, this point. Once again, this is not how we would do it, but this is great for exploration. And this brings the controlling points that we have at these points, and we have a very interesting surface. And you can imagine that this is how we design cars, how we design different elements. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, so that we have our surface. So this is the surface that we have. Now, a lot of time you want to create curves on these surfaces. One of the most important curves that we have is what we call isoparametric. This is when you fix one of the parameters. Let's say you say I want to get the curve. So if you say you want u half, this means that this is the middle of u. If this represents u and this represents u, this means this point in here and this point in here is for half u. So if we want to create the curve that is for half u, I can come on the parameter in here and select the surface that I have. So I don't know if I clicked, now that I click. So you can see what I have in here. So this is like my half. So I can go ahead and, you know, this is one of my isoparametric. Now if I wanted to do v is equal to 0.5, so from here going all the way to this side, I can come back and click here and do this other isoparametric. So there are different options to create different isoparametric curves, and you can go ahead and have fun and create several ones of them. So I'm going to just create a couple more. So remember, as we said before, you can double click so that you don't have to recreate something several times. So you click OK, and here, and I'm gonna click OK. And I think this is enough for, you know, to illustrate the concept of isoparametric. Now, one other function that can be of interest is, so there's so many different options that we have. You can create a lot of surface operations. I am going to go ahead, and the good thing is you can move between these different elements. So I moved back to generative shape design, and you can actually select anything from here to create whatever you want. So you can, let's say you want to extrude a profile. I don't know what's the reason, but like let's say you want to extrude it along Z, and these are the dimensions. So 20 is a little bit too much. Well, actually it's not too much. I did use like small values, 1 and so on. So you can create that, and so on. So you can play around with any of these options. Sometimes you can actually fill, you can create multi-section, you can do whatever you want. But for now, what I want to illustrate is the offset. So by clicking on this point in here, I'm going to select my surface, and you can see the offset that we can create. I mean, this is an offset of 2 millimeters. You can you can reverse orientation. Let's see if it likes it. So this is a good example why sometimes you cannot reverse, because calculation it cannot. So I'm gonna go ahead and reverse to the other side. So it couldn't calculate the intersection from the other side. What you can do is take it and try to see where it can calculate. So I'm gonna click OK on this one. We're gonna do another one just for the fun of it and to illustrate more concepts. So, and we click OK. So this is a little bit how you can play around with different elements and with different offsets. And if you want right now, what you can do is you can actually use those remaining surfaces to create parts from them. I'm going to hide all of these control elements. So, and I am going to hide these isoparametric curves. And this leaves us with the surfaces that we've created. So let's say we didn't want this one. This one we were just using it to go ahead and get started, and we wanted to use the others to connect them. You can now continue, start creating those things. So this is what it is illustrating. So if we want to take a look into surface analysis, so a lot of time you need to learn how to move around between these different workbenches depending on what you're doing. But if I go ahead and click on freestyle, and then we can go ahead and select the freestyle icon, the analysis icon. So the analysis buttons are in here at the top, and you have several of them. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the curvature analysis. A lot of time, this is something you want to understand the curvatures, you want to understand how a tool path is going to move so that you can understand how you can manufacture it. So this is something that's very, very important, and this can help you to analyze this. Finally, another thing we can demonstrate is, let's say you created this and now you want to close it up for some reason. There is, if we go back to shape, generative shape design, once again in these different features element, you can fill if you, so let's say you had like 3 surfaces that intersects, or you can try to create a blend. So the blend, for it to work, I mean the surfaces has to be really like there is that healing should be possible, and this is an example of a blend. We can try to create until we make it fail. Like let's see if in here it will work. Where is this blend? Let's try to find something that fails. Okay, it doesn't want to fail today. So this one. So I mean, sometimes I mean you think you can blend the surface, but you can't. Okay, so I'm not being lucky in crashing the software. It is perhaps scared of me. All right, so this wraps up tutorial number 2, and this creates for us a very finicky, interesting design, and you can imagine that this is the next space shuttle or wherever it is that you want. All right, thank you so much for listening to me.